Hey guys, it's Zypic. Now I'm sure most of you who have looked for base builds have stumbled upon a few floor stack designs. However, I noticed that most of the floor stacking tutorials are either outdated or underexplained. So today's video will go over what to do, what not to do, and generally how to floor stack in 2021. We'll start by learning how to build the floor stack lineup. For this, you'll need to place in 2 square foundations with a roof ramp running up the back one. We can then head over to the right side of the roof ramp and walk up slowly until we find this section in the pattern. As a landmark, I'll be using this bent piece of twig as it's easy to spot from far away. The first straight line on top of that bent twig will be the lineup for the bottom of our small box. Now we're going to look off to our right and crouch down. Make sure you remain crouching the entire time throughout the floor stack. Next, get yourself a triangle foundation and place it where the supporting legs just begin to touch the ground. This will guarantee that no one can crouch or boost underneath. And now comes the important part. We're going to take our hand completely off the mouse in order to not change the player's orientation, and simply just left click to place in your foundation. Still with my hand completely off the mouse, I'm going to hold D to move down the ramp. Our goal is now simply to get the second foundation locked as close as possible in with the first one. If I move left and right, you'll begin to see the point where the 2 foundations lock together. And once we have the foundation in the locked position, go ahead and place it in. And at this point, you finished your 2 floor stacked foundations and you can go on to build your base. Actually, we're not finished. More often than not, these foundations will work to create a floor stack. However, just in case something has went wrong down to the last pixel, it's better just to check before wasting all your resources on a base that doesn't work. We'll begin our test by placing walls on top of both foundations. There should be no gap and the textures of the 2 walls should collide very nicely. Even in this example of a very small gap, the base will eventually decay as the lower and higher foundations don't connect. Our next test will ensure that we have the proper height in between our floors. Using a staircase or any type of platform, we can guarantee that the floor stack will work by placing in 1 triangle tile on the bottom and afterwards 1 on top. If the upper triangle shows up as blue, you'll have no issues later on, and in which case you can head down and destroy the supporting walls. And at this point, I feel confident enough with the floor stack that we can begin building our base. You can proceed to pick up your small blocks and then demolish the starting foundations we used to floor stack. For the rest of the video, I like to go over a few rules of floor stacking. The first basic rule for beginners is that you cannot place 2 different floor stacked foundation heights next to each other. This is of course the reason you'll see gaps in the foundation layers of floor stack designs. Next, let's go over some of the recent updates you should know about before you begin to build one of these bases. Replacing doors on the second level of a floor stacked base has always been an issue. And one of the viable ways of fixing this used to be going down below into the core of the base and placing the door in from underneath. However, recently this was patched and now you can no longer do this. You'll notice that when I place in a frame, it's actually attached to the bottom level of the floor stack. So now the only way to replace doors is to literally remove the roof. And this is why you're beginning to see more reversed floor stack builds. This design is much more viable as you can replace upper doors, as you'll see that the frame is on the top layer of the floor stack. And before the video ends, I'd like to show you one more problem you may encounter. As you can see, both walls on the foundation show up as blue. However, if I add a few more foundations in a circle pattern, you'll notice that the forward wall shows up as red. This occurrence is very rare, however it's one of the reasons I always recommend to test all the walls before you place them in and upgrade. And with all that said, I hope you guys learned a bit more about floor stacking. If you have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.